It's on the train.
Yeah. Recording. Good evening. It's not church, you know, we actually can sit up front, you won't be picking on. Start, I'll just start out with a little humor, because we'll go down to left. So, my name is Stephen Everett. For those of you who don't know me, I'm currently the first selectman in town. And this is a town meeting to discuss the air purification and the HVAC system in West Dudley Porter School. First thing I'd like you to do is to stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So in the absence of the duly appointed moderator, I'd like to make a motion to nominate Katie Christensen to be tonight's moderator. Say again? Second in the back, you got it? My question. Very good. I would take other nominations, but, I would say Katie's the person to do it. So, any other nominations? Wonderful, seeing none. All those in favor of Katie being the moderator, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Katie, you're here.
Hi, everyone. So we're here to discuss and consider, but we are not here to vote on the following resolution. Amendment resolution authorizing an increase in the appropriation from $6,175,000 to $8,376,245 for the installation, replacement, and/or upgrading of HVAC system and indoor air quality improvements at the Horace W. Porter School, and an increase in the maximum amount of general obligation bonds and notes in anticipation of such bonds to finance said appropriation from $3,396,250 to $5,500,000. There is no vote at this meeting, and this meeting will be conducted in accordance with our town charter and Robert's rules. Once the floor is open for questions and discussion, I will call on each of you to ask your question, your comment. Please state your name and address before speaking, and I will then direct your question to the appropriate person for a response. If you have a second question, I will come back to you after everyone has had a turn. We're limiting the time to 3 minutes to make sure everyone has a chance to speak. Along those lines, we just ask that you are courteous and kind when you're speaking. These are friends and neighbors, so just keep that in mind, please. Discussion only will take place during this meeting. Once we have concluded, we will adjourn the town meeting to reconvene to a referendum to cast our votes on December 17th, which is next Tuesday, at Yeoman's Hall from 12 to 8 p.m. So now I will read section 7.6 of the Connecticut General Statutes eligibility to vote. Bear with me, there's a lot of words here. At any town meeting other than a regular or special town election, or at any meeting of any fire, sewer, or school district, or any other municipal subdivision of any town incorporated by any special act, any person who is an elector of such town may vote, and any citizen of the United States of the age of 18 years or more, who jointly or severally is liable to the town, district, or subdivision for taxes assessed against him on an assessment of not less than $1,000 on the last completed grand list of such town, district or subdivision, or who would be so liable if not entitled to an exemption under subdivision 17, 19, 22, 23, 25, or 26 of section 1281, may vote unless restricted by the provisions of any special act relating to such town, district, or subdivision. Now, I will read the legal notice that I have to read in its entirety. All qualified electors of the town of Columbia, Connecticut, the town, and any other persons entitled to vote upon any of the matters contained in this notice are hereby warned that a special town meeting of the town is to be held in the Owens Hall, 323, Route 87, Columbia, Connecticut, on Tuesday, December 10th, 2024, at 7 p.m. for the following purposes. 1, to elect a moderator. 2, to consider and discuss but not vote on the following resolution. Amendment resolution authorizing an increase in the appropriation from $6,175,000 to $8,376,245 for the installation, replacement, and/or upgrading of HVAC system and indoor air quality improvements at the Horace W. Porter School, and an increase in the maximum amount of general obligation bonds and notes in anticipation of such bonds to finance said appropriation from $3,396,250 to $5,500,000. The full text of the foregoing authorizing resolution is on file and open to inspection at the office of the town clerk, Town Hall, 323 Route 87, Columbia, Connecticut, for the use or inspection of any interested person. All qualified electors and persons entitled to vote in town meetings of the town are hereby further notified that pursuant to section 2.5A of the town charter, the foregoing resolution is being submitted to the voters at referendum for a yes or no vote. The question to be voted upon is as follows. Shall the resolution entitled Amendment Resolution authorizing an increase in the appropriation from $6,175,000 to $8,376,245 for the installation, replacement, and/or upgrading of HVAC system and indoor air quality improvements at the Horace W. Porter School, and an increase in the maximum amount of general obligation bonds and notes in anticipation of such bonds to finance that appropriation from $3,396,250 to $5,500,000 be approved, yes or no? The ballot label for said question shall read as follows. Shall the town increase its appropriation from $6,175,000 to $8,376,245 and increase the maximum amount of general obligation bonds and notes to finance said appropriation from $3,396,250 to $5,500,000 for HVAC system and indoor air quality improvements at the Horace W. Porter School? Yes, no. The vote will be conducted on Tuesday, December 17th, 2024, during the hours from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Yeoman's Hall, 323 Route 87, Columbia, Connecticut. Absentee ballots will be available from the town clerk's office in accordance with applicable law. Absentee ballots will be counted at the following central location: Yeoman's Hall, 323 Route 87, Columbia, Connecticut. Voters approving the resolution will vote yes, and voters opposing the resolution will vote no. 3, to adjourn the special town meeting to a referendum vote on the above question to be held on the date, during the time, and at the notice polling place referred to above. All right. So starting tomorrow, absentee ballots for the referendum will be available from the town clerk's office in person or by designation. I'm now going to open the meeting for discussion. At the end of the discussion, we will state the ballot question and explain what a yes vote and a no vote means. I'm going to offer First Selectman Stephen Everett the first option to speak before opening it to the floor.
Sometimes this job is so rewarding. Sometimes it's a little bit less. I don't like asking for money from the people of this town. This is a large investment in our school. And if you were at the meeting before this, the belief was the school system, the environmental of it helps the kids, the staff. It helps the environmental condition of the school. We have a problem in the school, parts of the school, that's no doubt. Moisture. There's mold. We test for it. When it's found, we eradicate it. We've done it numerous times over the years. When COVID hit, it woke up the state and there was grumbling about our schools and buildings, offices. So Columbia decided to look into what we could do to get ahead and help the situation in the school. Eradicate the moisture, which fed the mold. We get rid of the moisture, the mold goes away. How many people have a dehumidifier in their basement? We change it all the time, because if we didn't, that's where the mold would be. So we're asking you tonight to ask your questions. Make your comments. It's not easy for me to stand here and ask you to approve $9 million. I'm not an expert. But I will tell you this, the people we put on the panel, the committee, who volunteered their time deserve your respect. And I'm going to demand it tonight when you ask your questions and make your statements. There are men and women, professionals in the field who own their own HVAC businesses and broadband expertise every week, week after week. Try to find the best solution at the council for it. So that's number one. They deserve your thanks, and they're gonna get their respect tonight when you talk to them. It's not an easy job for them to lay that out either. Okay, that's number one. And then we're gonna ask you to vote on what you hear tonight, make up your own mind. If you were here for the budget meeting 7 months ago, I understand. The environment we put forth for our kids should be the best. Should be the best. But ask your questions, you make up your own mind. Okay? That's it.
Thanks. Chris, did you want to say anything as the chair?
So I guess the only thing I can certainly add to what Stephen had said, you know, we've got some highly dedicated volunteers that represent the board of selectmen, board of education, and like Steve said, we've got 3 professionals that are in the industry that are part of the board. We've certainly were disappointed, to say the least, as well, when we got the bids, when we heard of the bids on election night, that it came in much higher. First thing that, I know we did as a committee was we scheduled a meeting and we had asked the team of professionals that we've hired. We've got an engineering service with Supervisor Selly. Bob Bannon is here on behalf of the engineering design firm. We have, as far as project management, we've got a project manager, Jim Russo, who we hired. We brought them in and we discussed about areas where, you know, could we maybe try to right size, make changes or whatnot to get this within budget. And we looked at, or Supervisor Shelley had looked at areas, trying to look at the timing of when we would do this project, right? So when we had originally hoped a year ago, that the referendum that we would have this project under construction, we would basically have a good part of this past summer or early fall to start the work, with continuing through the winter, through the break, and then finish in the summer. Well, we're already kind of behind, in part because the part of the referendum vote last year, for those that remember, was contingent upon us getting the grant from the state. So the grant was a couple months late from when the state had originally thought, so that kind of put us a little behind. We had some delays in some of the design timelines. But the point that I'm trying to make is the timing of doing this project was probably a big contributor to the increase in prices. A lot of the work would be scheduled to be done on second shift. So second shift tends to come in as a premium for the vendor that we were going to recommend, who's the most qualified vendor to do the job. We looked at areas where maybe we change some of the scope, some of the existing equipment, are areas where we could look to maybe cut some costs. And based on the assessment and the timing of, should we take a couple months more, go back and, consider other avenues, or do we bring forward before the town and say, hey, we recommend going with a low bidder, understanding that would necessitate us coming before the townspeople to, ask them to consider through referendum vote for an increase. So that's where we are. We did look at other avenues. Ultimately, we didn't think it was going to result in a significant reduction. The range in the proposals, the next lowest bidder was about $700,000 apart, so we figured that we probably had one of the lower bids. As you know, the economy isn't as great as the news tells us it's been. So certainly what was escalating, what we thought would be the price over a year ago, unfortunately, between cost of doing it during second shift and prices, it's unfortunate that they're higher than what we had estimated. So, as the HVAC committee, we have recommended to the board of selectmen, and we also recommend this evening, that the town consider this increase in order to fulfill this project. I think this project's important, based upon anticipated mandates from the state for various indoor air quality requirements, certainly to get the environmental heating, ventilation, whatnot, up to current standards in the school, and like Stephen mentioned, certainly providing a better environment for both students and staff to live in. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Before we open it up to everybody else, is there anyone else that wants to speak, or? Okay, all right, so we'll open it up, just a reminder to state your name and address before you make your comment or ask your question. Do we have any at this time? Yeah. Were there other options? Can you come to the mic, is that possible? Thank you.
We're right in the middle here.
Ah. Thank you.
Carol Williamson, 12 Garland Road, Columbia. I was wondering if there were other options looked at besides an overhaul of the HVAC system, like repairing the leaks, the roof, whatever that would take. That's my first question.
That's got, Chris, can you handle that?
Sure.
So at the time when the HVAC committee was put together, I mean, there was reports of mold. I think you may be referring to the A wing where there were areas where water may seep in through the foundation. I know early on when the committee formed, we did look at that. I know that was one of the areas that we had asked Silver Petroselli to look when we were first going through the early design stages. The design and bond, correctly, I've been, the current design right now, does have a dedicated outside air system, which helps with ventilation. The current system right now is a negative pressure system. So with the design now in the A-wing and throughout the building, it'll provide neutral pressure, dehumidification, keep the temperature and humidity around stable, as well as put a little bit of positive pressure to make sure the air flows through the ventilation tube to reduce any mold that could grow. So is the original question, are we looking to change, the foundation or do any, construction to the outside or exterior of the school? No, that's not something that was originally, or it was not something that was ultimately decided as part of this project.
Okay, how many students are there?
About 440 right now. in the building.
Thank you.
Okay, next.
From Robotham, 15 Yeoman's Road. Is the new we've gone on to bid, is there any chance that the pricing might fluctuate from what we are hearing now to going forward? Like, is there gonna be another, could this possibly become more expensive than what we currently are talking about?
So the proposal we received, the low bid proposal that we received would be if approved through appropriation, would be a fixed price contract, right? So we have a fixed price that's locked in for 90 days or whatnot. Within this proposed increase does have some contingency in case there are increases, but we wouldn't anticipate at this time having to come back again before the town, because we've got a fixed price that's locked in, assuming that we go through referendum in the next week and whatnot. We hold firm on the pricing, we do have some contingency, about 10%.
Okay, all right, could you clarify the 10% contingency? Just 10%?
10%, roughly 10%.
Of the low bid number.
Okay.
That's standard contingency.
For existing building work, yes, it's a very typical number.
Okay, so it can't go above, the maximum it could go is 10% above the current price that has been quoted.
Yeah, the request includes that additional 10% beyond.
Oh, so
the
the
actual-
price does include 10%
Correct,
already,
the low bidder's price does not
Correct.
include 10%, the additional request includes the appropriation thing.
Right,
Includes
so the 8.3 million that's being presented before the community includes 10% contingency on top of the low bid vendor.
and what happened if it doesn't, that contingency is not necessary?
We have to, the voters have already established what the maximum we can bond. You have to come back to the voters again.
No,
No, no.
no, with the, if we spend the 7.4 that the bid is, and we have 700,000 contingency left over, what do we do with that money? Give it, put it back, we pay a bond,
We don't bond for it, we don't
right?
take out debt for it, and anything we've already spent, we don't have to spend it back in the general fund.
So we're not bonding for the whole amount?
We will only bond for the final number at the end of the project. We'll do short-term financing, we have our bond counsel here to answer those specific questions if you'd like.
Thank you.
Yeah, that.
Hi, my name is Steve Harrington from 47 Sleepy Hollow Road. I've been to a couple of these meetings now, and I've heard a lot of talk about the mold issue at the school. But I'm just curious, with the equipment that's in the school right now, taking away the mold problem, how far out when they tested the air was it out of spec?
I guess, we talk about out of spec, we would consider two conditions, one would be temperature and the other would be humidity. The building really has no way of controlling humidity now. Any air that's brought in from the outside is brought in through open windows or other infiltration, so it's untreated, so the humidity within the building could, in concept, reach the same level that it is outside, which, could be in the 70s or even 80%. Standards would drive us to limiting humidity within the building to 65%. So, you know, in concept, the existing equipment, you know, is not capable of staying within the humidity levels. In terms of temperature, obviously the school has always had a heating system that keeps, you know, minimum temperatures maintained. But it has very limited air conditioning currently, mostly provided through window air conditioning units, which really don't provide significant dehumidification. You know, they can keep the space in check in terms of temperature. The more, probably important thing that this new system will do is to provide, outside air that's filtered and treated, filtered and tempered, I should say. So that, you know, the breathing air within the space is healthier, let's say, at that point, than the current standard.
I have a second question. If, we borrow this money from the state, I guess not borrow, but get the money from the state, does that lock you into prevailing wage contractors?
The amount that we're spending, of state dollars locks us into prevailing wages.
Did you get an option of a non-union contractor to do the same work and not take the grant?
We did not.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm thinking here, Nancy Hamstrom, 5 Open Lane. Could you just explain the gap in what we are receiving versus the cost and how that will translate all, if at all, to impact on our taxes?
It will increase them. Yeah, I mean, it's, so
By how
the
much?
difference between a $5 million bond and an $8 million bond. I have numbers here. I don't have glasses. So I don't want to bring up the bond here. Can you explain these numbers a little bit better? Cause I'll tell you, it'll increase them.
So, my name is Bill Lindsay, I work for the firm, Newstat Services, we are the town's bond advisor. So to your question, I didn't want numbers on the delta between the prior referendum amount and the new referendum amount. What I did want is on what the new amount will be, okay? So, in terms of mills, we'll talk about millage first and then taxes second. So in terms of millage, it's the, increase in the mill rate is going to be an increase. It's gonna range from 0.38 mils, roughly a third of a mil, to 0.9 mils at the maximum. When we finance this, it would be through a serial bond, 20 years in length. The amount of debt service is not actually projected to be level, so if you think about your whole mortgage, right? You have a level payment, you pay every month, level payment every year. Problem with that, if you ever looked at the principal amount, how you repay, the rate of repayment on that principal amount, it's very much weighted to the end of the loan. So you pay a lot of interest up front, pay a lot of principal at the end. In an effort to save money, we have what we call level principal structure. It pays the loan off much more rapidly, about 2.5 years faster than if we did level debt service. We save about $289,000 in interest by having that level principal structure. The result, though, is it's not a uniform mill rate increase. So it starts out a little higher, and as the loan gets paid down, it drops off. That makes sense.
It does.
So that's the millage. So basically ranges, so if you look at the 20-year amortization of the loan, probably the easiest way to think of it, it's 0.67 mils. So roughly 2/3 of a mil increase on average over 20 years. Okay? In terms of taxes, so the easiest way to do that, I would say, I'm gonna give you a number for per 100,000 of market value of the home. So on average, over 20 years, it's $47 a year on average per 100,000. So if you had a home that had a market value of $400,000, it would be $188 a year on average for 20 years.
So a homeowner with a, say, $400,000 house, be looking at.
$188 a year.
$200 approximately on top of the taxes already paid.
Correct.
Would that be?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Answer one question, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Steve, just to address your question, prevailing wage would impact the town even if we didn't have a grant. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a new project, new construction, the threshold's $1 million the prevailing wage kicks in. By state statute, I believe any modification to existing structures, it's anything over 400,000. So we'd be in prevailing wage no matter what, with or without a state grant, in my understanding. Beverly, do you agree with that?
All right, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Yeah, go ahead.
Never really needed a mic before, so I'm just starting out. Dear Amber, on 230, 287, I have a couple of questions, so I guess I have 3 minutes, shouldn't take that long. First off, my main question is there a guarantee that this is gonna fix the problem? And if it doesn't come back and fix the problem, is the work gonna be done for free, saying we've already paid for the repair the first time? That's question one. The other thing I heard was that the work was gonna be done on a second shift. That was gonna cost some additional money. Should we be doing this in the summer when the kids are out so we can afford a first shift, which might be less expensive? Another question I have is, didn't we have a fixed price before? Contract, we didn't have a contract, is the guarantee, do you have a guaranteed price or not guaranteed price? Are we gonna be rebidding the project? And is anybody looking into the increase of what the utilities will be with an improved HVAC system? Those are my questions.
So can I give you something on the plan?
Yeah.
Don't go anywhere. My memory is short, so you're gonna have to, let's start from the beginning. What was your first question?
Question is there a guarantee that this is gonna fix the problem?
No.
We're paying all this money for no guarantee.
And our best professional background with our engineers are the people who put this together. They believe this is what we need to do. Will we guarantee it's gonna fix the problem? No guarantees. However, they are very certain that this will remove the moisture, eradicate the mold, treat the air coming in, be able to purify it, heat it in the winter, cool it in the summer, so the environment in the school will be better. The best, okay? That's what we're getting from it. Next question.
The next question was, you told me there was additional increase because we were doing this and hiring second shift help.
Yes. Let me tell you a story with the state did. They awarded $122 million in grants. That's 53% of what was being spent, okay? So 53%, I didn't go to quarter, but my guess is somewhere around $230 million worth of work in HVAC systems and air purification throughout the state. Just a small portion of the grants that people put out there, but it's still $240 million worth of work. There's only so many businesses that do this kind of work. So that's why the prices went higher in the labor. That's why they're gonna have to work some second shift. Would we like them to come in and go, we're gonna give Columbia a deal, we're gonna work it all in the summertime? Absolutely. I have asked the school to work with us, move classrooms around to see if we could get them in during the day so they don't have to work second shift. They will try, nothing's guaranteed. It's a tough system. Next question.
Well, that's what I was thinking, considering we have such a small population that's in the school, to put them in another part of the school while everybody else is.
We're working on it. And you know, it is a bid system. The contract will be signed. I am not sure, and we've asked this question, if we can do, and you had a term for it before, change issues or right to modify or something if we make room in the school where they get in on the first shift and it doesn't cost the wages higher at the second shift, can we, work that into our contract? We're trying.
We didn't have a fixed price before, but now
We did not have a fixed price before. We had an estimated amount by our engineering firm that we hired to take a look at it. This is what they said they thought it would go for 9 months ago when they put this all together. There's so much work out there to be done in a year and 1 month. Everybody went up on prices. Machinery went up on prices. Equipment went up on prices.
well, not everything's going up on.
Well, that's why it's more. This time, we'll sign a contract. We didn't sign a contract, and we're out for bid.
So you're gonna rebid the project?
No, we're not gonna rebid it. Here's the problem. If we rebid it, we don't get the grant. It goes back into the coffers. Okay? We're not even sure the state's gonna grant out next year. I've been told by our senator, there's no more money. They're not sure what's gonna happen. That's why I asked her for 53% of what's over and above, what we thought it was gonna cost. She said there's no more money. Okay, not getting it.
Well, I understand, everybody's fighting over the same money.
Right,
So we may not get the money anyway.
no, we're getting $3.2 million. We're getting that. We've got awarded that grant. The rest is on us. When you say going out to bid again, this work is supposed to be done by December 31st of 2025. What year is it? 24? We got 12 and a half months. They're not even started. We're not even past it yet. So, we don't know, we're hoping the state can go, oh, you know what, it'll never get done, don't worry, we'll give you an extension. Rolling the dice.
So we're rolling the
Let
dice
it
with
stay
the
up.
state.
Well, the last go round, did they give, I mean, last year's people who are in the throes of it now, did they get an extension?
They did grant a number of one-year extensions.
They granted extension. Everything in life is a little bit of a gamble. The other thing was, there was so much work out there, that if we went out for rebid on changes, who's to say that it would have came in any lower? If I was somebody who won the bid at $7.4 million and the next bidder was 700,000 more, I bet I would have raised my next year's bid. Just because there's money out there for the state senator, and it's a crunch time. There's so many variables in this that are unsure. Except, we have $3.2 million. We have a system for $8.3 million. These are not right on numbers. Please forgive me if I'm not right on the money. Don't say you said 8.3 at the meeting. Okay? We know we have the money from the state. We know it's gonna cost this. We're hoping they give an extension. We're hoping they can work a little bit, change orders.
So you're like, you're just getting.
Oh, now you're doing a little bit. What do you mean I don't have the money?
It's a promise providing you get the extension and we get the work done within the extension period of time, right?
It's kind of, yes.
Oh, right,
Okay,
okay.
there are some,
Did we look at the increase in what our, utilities are gonna be?
honestly,
Not just honestly.
not really. We've asked it at every meeting, right? I will tell you this, that I have been in touch with the solar people, because we do a great job up on the school, we have a roof. I've asked them to come out and to evaluate some of the land beyond the, leach fields and an area back there to extend our solar field, so we can offset some of the electricity.
But
Okay?
that would be a separate project with a separate bill to offset
Yeah, but
the HVAC.
the solar stuff, it's an investment that pays over years.
Stephen, we are locked to 5.5, how we use electricity.
We're still using more. We have no idea how much we're gonna use. That's her question. It's not how much we're locked in at, so please. We're gonna listen to their questions, we're gonna answer their questions. We're locked in at 5.5 over 20 years, but I have no idea how much more that system is going to need for electricity to make it at 5.5. Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm concerned less about that is that I'm concerned about the guarantee of bringing, after we spend all this money, that is gonna be brought in within X number of pollutant and Y number of pollutant, and have we narrow down the mold to an acceptable amount? Is it gonna completely wipe it out? What kind of backup do we have after spending all this money for a project that it has fixed the problem that we've gone after to fix in the first place?
Okay,
That's my major question.
thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Christine Esposito, 62 Doubleday Road. Speaking on behalf of, as a citizen of the town and somebody who is has been part of the Board of Education for quite a few years now and also served on the HVAC committee. So one of the risks that we run if we don't do this project now is we already have a grant that is awarded to us. The promise 52%, again, don't quote me on that either. If for some reason we don't move forward on this project, we do lose that grant. And it is anticipated, like Steve Eric said earlier, it's anticipated that the state is going to mandate this project to be done anyway. So keeping that in mind, there are variables. This is a big ask. This is the future for our municipal building. Just be thoughtful in when you're processing all this information. Be mindful of what we could actually lose if we don't move forward, and how much we'll actually have to pay when it becomes mandated by the state. It'll have to be all out of pocket, and we'll lose this large chunk of the grant. That's all I can.
Thanks. Go ahead, sorry.
Lisa Napolitano, 7 Hunt Road. A couple points. We talk about the system that exists there is a negative pressure, so it's pulling in fresh air from outside. If you go on the EPA website, when you have a problem with the air inside a building, they tell you to ventilate by opening the windows, not by filtering the air. So one of the things that's not being talked about is that we're going to have filters on that school that have to be replaced in order, one after another, forever. Right now, there's no filters because we're bringing in fresh air and pushing out the air. So that's best practices now, but will that be best practices in 15 years? It's a crapshoot. I don't know if people realize that the state of Connecticut has the highest debt per capita in the United States. It's $8,000 for every man, woman, and child. And we just keep wanting what we want and wanting what we want. But the state has not mandated that we have to air condition in the school yet. And as far as I'm concerned, until they do, we don't have to. And if they do, then they would have to provide some funding for it. So I don't know if going into a project when it's you don't buy a house when the market's exploding. You wait till things calm down and then you do it. And the whole thing with having a bond, I don't know if I buy that. If they mandate it later, yes. But air conditioning, in my opinion, for under 20 days a year, where it might be a little uncomfortable, doesn't make sense to me. I just wanted to put that out. And I do have a problem. I actually am allergic to air conditioning. If you put me in an air conditioning room, I'm gonna get headaches and I'm not gonna feel well. I don't care what filters are new, or it's just been cleaned. It's something about the ions. I'm sure there's gonna be children that are gonna have the same problem. I do not have a problem with fresh air. And Columbia has wonderfully fresh air.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a similar question to Lisa's, and that was, can you pare down the proposal with regards to air conditioning? It does seem to be a bit of a luxury. Is it a necessity for the small amount of time in the school year that it's actually used? I agree with Lisa, thank you.
Here's the gamble on that. If you adjust the specs of the job as it was submitted for the grant, they could pull the grant. They could pull the grant. Because they gave you the grant, I know you're gonna say, but it was based on 6 million, not 8.5. I get it. You're dealing with the state. It was based on specifications that we submitted. So,
So we submitted specifications with air conditioning.
yes, we did.
Thank you. So just to piggyback off of that previous comment, I know people are seeing this as a luxury, but there are people on these committees that have been working tirelessly. There's professionals on these committees that work in the field that have determined that this is not a luxury. This is a necessity. Yes, go ahead.
Hello, Noreen Farrington, 3 Newford Drive, Columbia. So based on the air conditioning and cost, what is the cost if we say we lose the grant? But if you're telling me the cost of air conditioning is $4 million and we're only losing $3 million, do you understand? If we pulled off the air conditioning, what is the actual cost of the air conditioning? I haven't heard that.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, the system is not just for putting air conditioning in the
I
school
realize that,
10
but
days
if you
a year.
didn't include that,
The system is, I don't,
We don't have a breakdown of, you know, the air conditioning is integral to the overall system, so I'm sorry, I don't have a breakout of it, you know, of how, what the energy cost is. Air conditioning.
so we don't, we submitted a bid, including something we never thought about pulling out because you thought it was not a luxury. Correct. Is that what I'm hearing?
The original request to the state indicated that air conditioning would be included as part of the project.
But we didn't consider not including air conditioning to see what that might be? Okay, and I want to go on record, I do think that air conditioning is a luxury, because I don't have it in my home, and it would be a luxury, but I don't have it.
Okay. Would one of the professionals that are on the committee, or even just our engineer, be able to explain maybe like what the system entails? And how the air conditioning is not just air conditioning, and how does it work? Explain to people, how does this system work? You know, obviously summarize as much as you can, because I think knowledge is understanding. And I've sat in a lot of those meetings, so I think it's easy for me to sit here and say, it's not a luxury, but I think maybe if we had more of an explanation, knowledge is understanding.
Yeah, it's gonna be good because we've had a meeting already that has explained all of this, so we just,
So there are two parts to the system. There's what we call the ventilation portion, which is a dedicated outdoor air system. Brings in outdoor air, filters it, heats it, it needs to be heated, dehumidifies it if it needs to be dehumidified, and delivers an ASHRAE code mandated amount of ventilation into each space. Beyond that, there is an air conditioning and heating portion, what we call the VRF system. Somewhat similar to the unit you see on the wall there, basically, which is capable of both heating and cooling, so it will allow us to reduce fuel consumption during what we'll call the shoulder season. It's not capable of fully heating and eliminating the boiler, but it is a backup. So that's the second part, the air conditioning piece via the VRF system, and the ventilation piece via the dedicated outdoor air system.
so moderator, I'd like to ask him a question.
Yes.
I'm going here. We started by having moisture, which led to some mold issues. You just didn't, 2 parts of that, you didn't mention that at all. Talk to me about that.
So both components will remove moisture from the air. The VRF system, by virtue of its compressor cycle, squeezes condensate out of the air. The dedicated outdoor air system controls moisture within the space in two ways. As I said, the air that it's bringing in gets dehumidified. And it also, because of the slight positive pressure system that you talked about before, prevents unconditioned air from leaking into the building, so it helps to keep moisture out of that.
Okay, go ahead.
Bonnie, 11 Scalise Drive, I'm pretty disappointed in some of the comments that have been made tonight. We're talking about little kids, the luxury of air conditioning. They're in school, they're there to learn. You want to be sweating while they're learning? That's ridiculous. That's absurd. With the budget cuts last year, sorry. My son is not getting extra attention he should be getting because there's not budget for it. Now, we're saying that my other son has breathing issues. Oh, there's mold. Who cares? He'll be fine. That's absurd for $200 a year. That's ridiculous. That's selfish. Think of the kids. Your bill goes up $200. Big whoop. I mean, it's a lot of money, okay? I get it, $200 a lot. It's not thousands, it's $200 to make sure kids are in a healthy environment. Please, just think of that.
Thank you. Next.
John Logan from 6 Collins Road. You're dealing with a public that just endured a nearly double-digit tax increase last June. And we asked questions about what would it cost if we didn't include the air conditioning. You don't know. We asked questions about what are the additional expenses with the filters and the addition, and you don't know. That's just unacceptable to come to us and ask us for $8 million. And we say, what's it gonna cost going down, going forward? And we haven't looked at that yet. I just don't understand that.
Jim Chikolsky, 2 Bonet Terrace. I served on Board of Ed for 8 years, and I'm going back prior to Barbara, probably 5-6 years before prior superintendent, when there was mold issues in the ducts. And this was happening in the summer, in August. There was no rainy season, there was no leaky roofs, there was no snowbanks on the side of the building. It was dry and just humid. Even 6 years ago, we relied on AC units in the windows and portable AC being pushed all over the summer months. So it's not a luxury even for the kids. I mean, we need to protect the building even in the summer when there's no one in the building. It's the biggest plant in our town. We don't want to build we don't have a wing shut down and we don't have to rebuild it. I just wanted to echo the point where to say it's some luxury item for kids or for comfort for a couple days in the year, this was happening in August, there was no rain, and we were relying on AC then, and we have been for years. So to say like, what would it cost without AC? Like, we already have been using AC to remedy the mold issue and to keep the air clear. It's nothing new, it would just be more efficient.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, Guy Water, 65 Laurel Lane. I think it would be helpful if Bob can explain to us what the ASHRAE standards are, what the code is for indoor air quality in the building and the temperatures required to meet the code.
So I think I mentioned previously regarding, humidity levels that ASHRAE standards, limit us to, I believe it's 60%, I may have said 65 before. Right. So that's what we designed to the systems that can keep that humidity levels within 65. Typical temperature range that ASHRAE would recommend would be in the 70 to 75 range. It's for heating and cooling. I don't have the numbers to quote, but there are standard ranges that we're supposed to meet in terms of particulates. So that's where we get into the idea of filtration. So not bringing pollen, dust, those sort of things in. So I don't have, you know, parts per million numbers to relay, but those standards have been becoming more and more stringent. I think somebody had mentioned earlier, the state, this isn't necessarily a building code thing, but I think the State Board of Education limits the temperature within the school to 78 degrees, and if you exceed that, you know, you need to send the kids home. Junior, I'm sorry, okay. So I don't know if there's any.
Please correct that, please correct it. What is the temperature, 85?
That's 85.
85.
My apologies. Correct. I don't know whether that hit on the points you're hoping for.
Anything else? Go ahead.
Hi, Marie Ram, 9887. First, I just want to say thank you to the committees who have been working on this. I recently joined the Board of Education and am extremely new to the HVAC committee, so I have not been involved too much yet, but I've seen the work that's gone into this, and it's a lot, so thank you. And I thank everyone for coming and for having concern over this and trying to become informed before the vote. That said, I do have 2 children at the school, one of whom joined the A wing last year. She's a very healthy kid. I used to brag about how much she didn't get sick. As soon as maybe 2 months after moving down into A wing, she started to get sick very frequently. She's sicker more often for longer periods of time. She has allergies that she didn't have before. She goes to school on Monday, her eyes turn red and start to itch. It's gone by Saturday morning. It is there Monday through Friday. I've been fortunate enough to go in to volunteer at the school last year and this year, both of which the years she's been in A wing. And I can smell it I can smell mildew when I go into the classroom. Both of the classrooms that she was in last year and is in this year, they have window AC units, and they're doing the best that they can to control what's the air that's in there. So all the efforts that can be made with what we have now are being made. And for some kids, it's still not enough. I know that increases in taxes are not a small thing. It's a big deal for a lot of people, but I would ask you to also consider the health of the students and the staff who are in the building who really do struggle with their involvement there. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead. Sorry, he hasn't spoken yet, so.
Mike Curtis from Hardwood Road, Columbia. Just jotting down notes. Okay, first let me start. In my personal, I have 2 kids in the school. I had 2 years go to the school system. My belief is this is a project that simply should be done. Okay, that's my personal opinion, but you know, this is going to occur. We're going to get this done. The question is when. Do we delay it 2 years and forfeit a grant? And the price goes up and we get less of a project result. It's just something, you know, where several people made the point that air quality is an absolute necessity. You really don't have to debate it. I sat in front of school boards the previous life where people are theistic because, you know, that you're proposing less of a grand solution to a bunch of really sick kids. We don't want that. That's simply not something this town wants. Okay, and for that reason, if nothing else, this is a project, let's approve this, let's get it done, because it's only gonna get more expensive. The air conditioning aspect, you know, air conditioning is not air conditioning, as you know it. You know, you're treating air on a year-round basis. And that's simply a factor of what it is, an outdoor filtered outdoor air that comes in board. You know, and so this, again, this is the best solution we have right now. The project's gonna get done, let's do it. And thank you.
Yeah, I just want to clarify something, the drive out here tonight. I just came here simply to ask for information and have some questions. And I think probably a lot of people came with questions like, what are my taxes, how is this gonna impact my taxes? There's nothing in here that even hints on that. I think that's a common question or thought on a lot of people's minds. And the other thing that I didn't understand, growing up here in this town and never having air conditioning, was that it was just it's something you turn on when it's hot. If the mold problem is contingent upon the air conditioning being in the building, then so be it, of course, but I had no idea of that technicality, so thank you for explaining that. I just wanted information. Thank you.
That's fine.
One for, excuse me, your name's Bob?
Yeah.
Bob. So one question for Bob, one question for Steve. All right, so my question for Bob is that I'm looking at the changing regulations of AC units that are coming down the pike. Or have happened, excuse me, rephrase it, have happened and are now gonna be implemented across the board. Has that been factored in, number one, has that been factored into the, that 10% potential? And, how much more will that increase, let's say the grant goes away or whatever, how much more will that increase the cost? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I assume you're talking about the change in the requirements of refrigerant.
Yes.
Yeah, so the equipment that's specified for this project in the pieces of equipment that it's available, have the current refrigerant requirement in there. They're part of the spec, part of.
Not the new one?
Not all equipment is available yet with the new refrigerant. So anything that is available with that new refrigerant was specified that way and priced that way. So I don't anticipate any increase to this bid number because of the change in refrigerant requirements.
Would that alter, does that impact the AC unit? I mean, does it change air quality? Like the new refrigerant, do we need it?
You only need it if you're buying the equipment after the date that the EPA has set that you have to have it. So it is an odd time because those requirements are coming in step by step, depending on the type of equipment. In terms of how it would impact,
I mean, are we gonna be penalized for not having it?
no.
Okay. That's a good question. For Steve, now I know that we're talking the HVAC and everyone's just kind of getting, I'm not trying to get sidetracked here, but I am gonna bring up the culverts. Now, we're talking about it, anywhere between like was it 3.3% to 0.9%, give or take, increase in mills. How much is the culverts gonna impact in addition to what we're doing with the equipment?
So I honestly can't give you an answer because we just awarded a bid for an engineering firm to give us not a rough number, probably a little bit better number on one of the major roads, Doubleday Road. That's one of a few. We have Pine Street that, I think we have a number on that. We got a grant for that. We're working to get grants on everything if we can. There's just not a lot of them out there. Listen. Things cost money. I get it, and we're very fortunate that we have a low mill rate. And never mind the mill rate, it's how much we pay in taxes. We do pretty well here. It's the good steward of the people that have been here for many, many, many years, well before me, okay? But things do change. Things change. And 50-year-old roads deter. That's what we're facing there. So. But that's you know, I think you're being a little forward saying, what about the roads and the culverts? We're doing our best to get funding for that, grants. We're doing our best to get good work done by, you know, well-established low bidders. We did a wonderful job on Hunt Road last year. Low bidder came in probably $700,000 lower than the next, and we took a shot on it. I sat down with them, Mark and I sat down with them, we interviewed a company that was really just starting up. We're doing our best. I don't know what the cost is going to be. I don't wanna tell you it's gonna be X amount of dollars, cause I don't know. We're doing the best we can for grants and offset what it's gonna cost the people of Columbia.
So
Sorry,
you don't know what the combined, cost of the culverts and the school, what that mill rate increase, that's not been considered.
I can't pick a number out of my head. I wish listen, Doubleday, I've heard $5 to $10 million. I don't think it's gonna be that high, but guess what? I sold pharmaceuticals, man. I'm not an engineer. You know, we'd like to get it less than that, but it's gotta be done right. If we do it, when we do it. So we're talking about this. I'm sorry.
Rachel Rand of 1066, kind of piggybacking off of that. When we met previously for, with FIPAC, when we were going through budgeting last year, the culvert project came up. And it came up as a project that we probably should have addressed earlier, and it all kind of compounded at once. That's what we're going to encounter with this AC project. If we leave that building to start falling apart and we don't take care of it now, it's going to become the culvert project. It's going to hit us a lot harder when there isn't grant money there. That's all I have.
Go ahead. Sorry.
First line 12 Randazzo Road. Just one thing I just wanted to maybe add and clarify, maybe add to one of the answers to, I think, question that Vera had. And maybe, so just to make everyone aware, I mean, part of the project, per statute, we had to hire a commissioning agent, right? And I bring this up just so everyone has maybe a little more assurances that besides the great job that the engineering firm did put them together, by statute, we have an independent party that acts on behalf of the town that has reviewed the specifications before they went out to bid. They will be part of the contract we have with this engineering firm, independent, doesn't answer to Bob's firm, answers to the town and to the state, that they will do function testing. They will make sure that the specification that the Board of Ed put together, that was part of the grant, as well as all the engineering specifications, making sure that the equipment meets all the ASHRAE standards, ventilation, heating, dehumidification, all of that needs to be done before the low bid vendor, if we move forward, is off the hook. That's all part of the deal. So for what it's worth, I just figured I would just let everyone know that you are going to get, we can't guarantee performance, but it will meet the performance as spec'd out.
Thank you, Greg. Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
Carol Williams, 12 Garland Road. It still seems to me that we're trying to fix a problem instead of correcting a problem. If you get rid of the moisture coming in, then you don't have mold. I was a horticultural diagnostician at the University of Connecticut, and I dealt with mold on a regular basis. Get rid of the moisture, you get rid of the mold. And this just seems to be a Band-Aid to dry out the air so there's not as much potential for mold. So did anybody look at correcting the leaks?
Yes.
I guess two things I'll say on that. One of the things that we had performed as part of our design process was a building pressurization test. blower door test, they call it, to test the envelope, to be sure that we didn't have, infiltration, things that we should be taking care of beyond just the HVAC system. And it found, that there were not leaks that were beyond what would be normally expected in a building of that age and construction, and they were acceptable. So we did go through that piece. And I guess relative to, keeping the moisture out, I really think that's exactly what this HVAC system is going to do, while still bringing fresh air in, but dehumidifying that air.
I was talking about leaks coming through the foundation. You mentioned that type of leak. Not infiltration of the air, but the moisture coming through the concrete.
Actual liquid water.
Yep.
Okay.
Or even opening doors so air can circulate. I'm presuming that most of this mold is in stagnant air areas, because that's normally where it tends to collect. Under cabinets, in closets, that type of thing, just as it does in homes.
I was not part of the prior mold testing, so I can't speak to
was?
where it was found.
Who knows anything about this?
What we've done in the past, we've left doors open. Our biggest problem is this system is, like we've talked about, negative air. We've got exhaust fans. With COVID, we found that we have to do a 2-hour pre-purge every day. We're supposed to do a 2-hour post-purge. The state recommends that we leave exhaust fans on even if we have one person in the building. So that means while my custodial staff is in the building, I have to have fans running. So during the summer, we're not in there, we're in during the day, but it means I still have to leave fans running a little longer for the day. So all we are doing is bringing that moisture in. There's no place for it to go, it stays in the building. So that's why we're just asking with this system, we've tried to keep doors open everywhere, we keep the window air conditioners running 24/7, just to try to mitigate heat and as much humidity as we can.
Are there students and teachers that can't go to school or are really ill from this mold?
Superintendent, that's that.
So we have had plenty of students, and I'm not gonna, who are having issues with the air. And we are now having staff who are having issues with the air. We have doctors.
I can appreciate that, I have a kid that has allergies. I was just wondering how many and what the percentage is, and is there a possibility to move them to different wings or different rooms?
Everybody talks about A wing, one person, staff member is not in A wing, and this person is having an issue, that's F wing. That F wing, which is a middle school, so over break, Mike and his staff are gonna try another room. We did a whole study this school year on that F wing, because that was kind of new. And we found some mold in various places, and then we have to share that with, staff requires it, it's actually on our website. They bring it to their doctor and they look at what is best, so we're with one particular person, I can tell you, we're gonna try a new room, see if that's any better.
Mold is ubiquitous in the environment, it's just part of what we live with. I can understand if there's areas where there's not good ventilation or not good circulation, you will get mold, that's just the way it is.
I guess they look at it from what I understand, in comparison to the outdoors. And we have plenty of rooms that are much higher than the outdoors mold counts. So that's what our study showed.
Chris, I need to ask you a follow-up, and not to put you off, but I do recall, we asked to do footing drain studies to make sure that the water was actually traveling away from the foundation on A wing. We did that, did we not? I see your head going in many different directions.
We did that, there was no water coming
Okay,
into the building.
so we asked, so your question, how to get we asked to do a footing drain study throughout the A wing because that seemed to be where most of the mold was growing, and the A wing has a lot of problems over there. It's below grade. You're below grade, you get moisture. So we asked to do a study on the drainage system there, and it came back, it's fine. It flows fine, it's not clogged, it doesn't pool, it's fine. So yes, we have looked at that. I'm gonna tell you, I'm as frustrated on this as everybody else, because I'm not an engineer. I said, well, why can't we just stick some dehumidifiers down there? Okay, that's great. No, it's not gonna work. Okay, damn it. I thought I had a great idea, like I'm the only one who uses the dehumidifier. And then I said, well, why can't we put in 2 splits per room with 1 condenser in the middle? Well, I have to be suspended from here, and it won't do this and it won't do that. If you're not an engineer, I can understand your frustration with the cost of this and what it's actually doing. Okay? So the first thing they said was, oh, we're gonna pull in the air from the outside and purify it. And I said, it's not pure? No, it's not pure. Okay, shut down outside activity, because if it's not pure for the kids, when you bring it in, but it's a different system. It's a different scenario. I get it. You can make up your minds on this, but I wish it's all falling against us. Timing, the economy, you know, just, it's all falling against us, but this is what's in front of us.
Anybody else? Yes, yeah.
Can I ask, what the quote is of the, refrigerant that we will actually need in the units? I mean, is it 134, 404, 290, what do you use?
The new equipment uses, I believe it's R32 refrigerant. There are 2 different refrigerants that fall under the new code requirements. So R22 is long gone, R410A is being cycled out, R32 and I don't know, it's like R485, or there are 2 new ones that are coming in. 453, I think you meant, yeah. So it is the new refrigerants that are being mandated by the EPA.
So you're assuring we're doing the latest,
Correct.
but you're not really sure what that is.
I'm sorry, the second number escapes me, but it is one of the 2 refrigerants that's mandated by the EPA now.
Of the equipment that has it. And if the equipment that we need is not up to date or is not available, we're staying with the refrigerant that's been used for years. I thought you just said.
Yes, that is correct. Not all of the equipment is available.
Are we going to have to change over? Is the possibility, that was Hart's question, is the possibility of having to change over to the new refrigerant? Is that a possibility?
They would not mandate that you take the equipment out.
Again, in fact, I'm just.
And Paul, are we going to have, because I mean, like, is this gonna be kind of like the light bulbs, you know, as they phase out the old systems, are we still gonna get access? Because this system is gonna be in it for the next 20, 30 years. So are we going to be in a situation where we're having to hunt down this old type of refrigerant that is no longer applicable the way people hunt down light bulbs, you know, the old light bulbs? Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I don't necessarily have a crystal ball. Our anticipation is that this equipment will serve you for 20 years minimum. And when it needs to be replaced, might there be another refrigerant that's in place then? It's certainly possible.
Is the government phasing out this refrigerant or not? Do you know? The EPA has changed its regulations on the refrigerant.
Correct.
Is the old type of refrigerant still going to be available for the next, I mean, like, you don't know 100% certain, but like, is there indications that they're trying to phase this type of old refrigerant out?
Not that we're aware of.
Okay.
Anyone else?
So. Before we can move to adjourn, I just need to explain what the yes vote will be and what a no vote will be. So a yes vote means that you are in favor, and a no vote means that you are not in favor. The result of the referendum will be announced by me after the polls are closed, and this meeting is adjourned to the referendum. So I'm going to ask Steve to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Oh, do we have to? Okay, I make a motion to adjourn this meeting to a referendum on December 17th, 2024, from 12 p.m. noontime to 8 p.m. to cast your vote here at Yeoman's Hall. The question that shall be voted on is as follows. I gotta read that? Excellent. Shall the town increase its appropriation from $6,175,000? $6,175,000 to $8,376,245, and increase the maximum amount of the general obligation bonds and notes to finance said appropriation from $3.396250 million, that's $3,396,250, to $5,500,000. For the HVAC system and indoor air quality improvements at Horace W. Porter School. Anybody else want to leave? Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Great. All those in favor of leaving? Good night, everybody. Thank you very much for coming out.
Signature, you need Jeff's signature.
No, we decided we're gonna leave.